Welcome back to the channel, everybody. By now, you realize Matt and I have been pretty excited about jazz lately. One of the things that we've come across in our listening to the music and deciding what we appreciate, what we don't appreciate, we've also found some books, and those books have changed the way that we listen to the music as well as appreciate the artists. One of those books we talked about last week was How to Listen to Jazz by Jerry Coker. We decided that we wanted to interview someone who we would consider an expert in listening. There's a lot of dialogue that takes place in this, a few questions that we've asked, but more importantly, we had an opportunity to hear from our father about what it takes to listen. For more of that, you're going to start right up here in a moment. And I asked the question about the solar eclipse that had taken place the day of the interview. We go from there into an album and an artist that we recommend him listening to, and then we'll begin the interview officially with him with a few questionings to open it. We've broken this down into two pieces, a part A and a part B, because we just found so much information. We didn't want y'all to feel like you were drinking from an open fire hydrant, so two parts, and with that, we'll get started on part A. You guys were in the path of the total eclipse today.
Yeah.
What was the weather like in the Fort Wayne?
It was gorgeous. I mean, it was close to 70 degrees and
I think you should just wear those all the time.
And you know, the funny part is that I knew the eclipse was coming, obviously, but I didn't think about the effects that it would have on the temperature. I was sitting out in a short sleeve shirt, very comfortable when the sun was out, and when the eclipse came,
dropped like 10 degrees
at least. Yeah. I was almost chilly.
Did you notice the wind?
The wind, yeah.
The wind picked up.
Yeah, absolutely.
For whatever reason.
It could have been the Halon Collider. I don't know.
I thought it was the flux capacitor that caused all that issue.
Flux capacitor.
we had, I would call it almost a miracle today. We had clouds with threat of rain all day long. And we got outside to watch. It was getting dark outside. For us, it was like 1:15, and we're sitting outside. Just a miraculous occurrence. I got to see it. The clouds kind of parted like the Red Sea, and we sat out on the lawn chairs in the backyard just watching as it went to total here. So Austin all the way up to Fort Wayne, we got to see the same eclipse.
Yeah, that's right. And you took it. Did you take that shot that you posted on Facebook?
I did.
Oh, that was a phenomenal picture.
Really?
It was just perfect timing.
I'll show you in a minute. Yeah. Welcome to Eclipse Day.
Welcome to Eclipse Day. I'll have to send you it off air, but I saw a perfect eclipse today. All I could think about was Rosie's hiney.
I knew it was coming.
It would block out the sun in a heartbeat.
You're bad.
I knew it was coming. You are bad.
Oh, man. That's funny.
I'm going to tell your Aunt Barb about that. Let me put him in.
No, you go first. You tell him.
Well, I was just saying, listen to Pharoah Sanders. The first one, what we had just listened to was Karma.
Okay.
1969, right?
1969. Yep.
Karma, isn't it?
And we dug that album. I think we texted the end of that first day and said, we're done. Let's rate it and move on.
Pharoah Sanders. Pharoah. And Karma is the name of the album. Now.
But what'd we come across?
Oh, the other one. Pharoah Sanders with the London Symphony Orchestra and a group called Floating Points. Okay.
That album was awesome.
Then I'm having a hard time with the name of that album. Oh, wait, it's right here. I listened to that again on Promises. Promises by Floating Points.
Okay.
Pharoah Sanders and the London Symphony Orchestra.
Okay. That's two different.
It's yes. Now, What order you want to do? Karma first, and
Start
then
with Karma.
start with Karma. Now,
Okay.
Karma's a 28-minute song.
Okay.
Okay, and it will take you on a few roller coasters, a little journey.
Okay.
There are some car crashes on the journey. Just get past those car crashes, and then I think you'll enjoy Karma. I really do.
Okay.
The other song on the album is only like a 6-7 minute song.
Yeah, it's short.
So it's a short one. Yeah, you can picture what maybe he's going through in '69. what he's on, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
with a short 7-minute song. But Karma, you'll ebb and flow with Karma, and then Floating Points. If you have trouble getting to sleep,
Okay.
put on Floating Points, and it will meditate you. I promise it will meditate you, and it's not boring.
No,
Yeah.
I was just going to clarify. That's not a boring album at all. It
Uh-uh.
is, but it is so beautiful.
Cool.
And it's not it is jazz, but it's a complete mix with the London Symphony Orchestra, and
Wow.
Floating Points is an electronic.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's
really,
unlike anything you've ever
really
heard
fun
before.
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, it is unlike
Is-
anything.
That stuff that's on the list?
Well, Pharaoh is on the list
Okay.
later.
Later.
But you won't get there for a year.
Yeah, but you'll have heard Karma when we talk about it. And
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what
But-
they're talking about.
But you know somebody who knows somebody that can tell you about what's coming up.
Yeah. Text your granddaughter in Texas. She'll tell you what's coming up.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
She won't tell us.
No, she won't. Well, she told me that someone was not on the list and it was okay to
Oh,
listen
okay.
to.
Okay.
And I promise you, if Pat Metheny is not on this list, I will do the final episode with no shirt on. I'll be so mad.
Yeah.
You
It's
ready? You
much
ready,
like-
Matt?
But he's got something to
It's
say.
much like I've watched the last 100 episodes of you guys
100?
podcasting.
100.
It just seems that way.
Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Unconnoisseur channel. I am one of your co-hosts, Drew. Today, we have a very special guest that we're going to introduce to you and listen to as he helps us along to shape and to share some learning potential opportunities. As we start, I want to bring back up to your attention How to Listen to Jazz by Jerry Coker. In Jerry's book on page 2 and 7, and then again in 72, he talks a little bit about craftsmanship, the awareness, the creativity, and the spirit behind this. In the last video, I had mentioned the paragraph leading up about this being a process. We don't know what we don't know. Today, we have somebody that we think can help us learn to listen better. So I'm going to transition over to Matt. Matt, would you like to introduce today's guest?
Absolutely. Well, today in the studio, we have our very own father. So thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Drew to have you recording with us. Thanks for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
And I do too. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys through this process.
Yeah. So our father, his name is Verlin, and he actually goes by Dude, and that's not a slang term for him. He's been going by Dude for well,
A long time.
a long time. Yeah, since before the Dude that most of you will think of when you say the Dude, but this is the original, the OG Dude right here. So we call him Dad. All of his friends call him Dude, and some people call him other names, but we won't go there today.
Not always good.
Sometimes he's been called a punk, but don't ever do that.
No, never do that.
So as Drew said, we're hoping to glean some information about how to learn to listen, and not just to music, not just to jazz, but how to learn to listen. So we've come up with some questions to ask someone who is an active listener, someone who listens for his career, for his counseling and everything else. We just thought we'd bring in someone to help us and help you guys learn how to listen. So kind of the very first question we've got was for active talkers. For active talkers, is there anything that you can share with us about how to become an active listener. Now, Drew and I are both active talkers. It takes a lot for me to be quiet while he's talking. It takes a lot for him to be quiet while I'm talking. But for you, that seems to come really natural. So is there anything that you can share with us to be how to become an active listener?
Yes, I would anticipate there's a few things that I could share. One of the things that comes to my mind is I've always thought the other person that I'm engaged with has information that they want to get across, they want to share. And so typically those are active talkers. But it gives opportunity for a person then to become more active as you hear and become curious about what the person is actually saying. At times like that, when the active talker takes a breath, that affords me an opportunity to ask deeper questions so that I have a greater understanding of what the person is trying to communicate, so that I really begin to understand what's really going on inside the person. It's not often easy to stop an active talker because they want to talk and share. And it becomes a challenge to do that. It becomes a challenge to interject, but still it's important because you have to have a community type dialogue. You have to feel what the other person's feeling, expressing, with the anticipation that person is going to say, hey, what's the feedback? What are you looking at? What are you hearing? So I'm then able to give some observation, but it does require at times stepping into the conversation boldly at times. In fact, I was with someone today who is a very active talker, and I had to basically put a stop to it and begin to give him and provide some feedback for the person. And then actually, I met with him quite a few times. So we have an understanding in our relationship and our communication. So I'm able then to, even as he takes a break, just to say, hey, this is what I'm hearing. This is a suggestion I give to you. And then again, he becomes more of an active talker, but at least I'm able to provide some feedback and some direction with that process.
Yeah. So what I heard was he is waiting for the person that has something to say. Okay, the person feels like they have something to say. So in a jazz context, you might be waiting for a solo to come up, right? That person, that soloist, has something to say, something to get across, and then you provide feedback, right? Mm-hmm. After they're done spewing or talking, mm-hmm. you provide them some feedback, which is kind of improvisational, like jazz is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But sometimes you have to wait. You have to wait for them to take a breath and pause before you can interject.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now there are people who just plain drive a person crazy. Your mom has a friend who's a beautiful person, but your mom can sit for 3 hours and listen to this beautiful person just talk, and I can't do that. Your mom is a very good listener, and she's got other friends who equally capitalize on the time. And
I think women listen differently than men do too, don't you think?
Yes, they do. They do.
What are you laughing at?
As three guys sitting here talking about listening, maybe we should be talking with Mom. Next time we're all there, I'll ask Mom these same questions.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Your mom is really proficient at listening.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when, of course, I'm talking from more of a counseling perspective, and when I'm meeting with clients.
And I think that leads me to one of the questions we wanted to address up front as well. We've gone into this without much about who and what. So can you tell us a little bit about your life experience Uh, I put in my notes from your counseling to foster families, to family and children, marriage, and even the director of Lifeline Homes, where you worked with hoodlums. You worked with delinquent boys, and I don't mean your three sons.
Yeah, but they were part of it.
So what is your background, and what have your experiences been, which is why I key in today to ask these questions about listening.
Sure. And I'm not sure how far back you want me to go, but right after I came out of the service, Mom and I, your mother and I, were unsure about what direction we were going to go. And we prayed and asked God. Basically, we told God, we want you to use us in whatever capacity you choose. Within 2 weeks, we received a call to become house parents. You were 2 years old when we moved into the group home, and we were there 2 full years as house parents to 10 delinquent, back then it was called delinquent boys. That led me to work as the administrator. Actually, between that, I was in the pastorate. And you guys, Drew and your brother, were born during that time. Then I went back to the group home, and I was the administrator. So it gave me a great deal of opportunity to listen, to engage with couples, with house parents, with families, with kids. I was in that job for 17 years. And then I worked for the welfare department, actually, and I had a completely different perspective on the difference between troubled kids and kids in trouble. When you're working in the welfare department, you're working with troubled kids. The delinquent is kids in trouble. And it broadened my understanding of people and situations. And it did give me an opportunity to listen, to engage with folks who were struggling with their kids, struggling with their situation, drugs, alcohol, a goodly number of different issues. Before I left the administration, my friend convinced me to get a license as a marriage and family therapist, and I qualified for that. And that began a career working as a therapist in a variety of situations. I've supervised interns who were working on their master's degree, which again gave me a great opportunity to listen, to engage with them, but as well, they were willing to listen to my advice and my counsel, my direction. And it was a very good interaction between supervisor and supervisee. And now I do a lot of therapy within the context of the church that we attend. And that's why I say just this afternoon, I was talking with somebody about their situation. So I meet with clients throughout the week. I don't meet with folks on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
It's because you're retired. You get to choose your schedule.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I've retired.
Right.
3 times, I think I've retired.
And I always tell my friends they're busier now than when he was actually working. We saw them more when they were actually working than we see them now because they're retired.
That's pretty true.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, every time I call, I try to verify. So where are you at right now? Who are you counseling? Are you at the church? Where are you at?
Yeah. Yeah, I always pull him up on Life 360 before I call him. Oh, he's at home. He'll take my call.
Sometimes I tell my counselees, I say, if one of my kids calls, I will take the call. I do not like to neglect you.
I was going to say, if one of my kids called, being that one would be Phil or Matt. I'm going to take the call. The good son, Phil.
You're still a victim
if
of
Drew calls, I'll ignore the call because it'll be 3 hours.
Victim of being a middle child. That's all. Poor baby.
We'll get into more of your history as we go through this, but I have one question that I need to ask since you've brought this up. What was it like to raise 3 awesome sons?
Well, the first response I have is, you guys never caused us any trouble. You guys, you guys always did everything right.
Oh.
Actually, I wasn't always engaged. I'm sure I wasn't as engaged as I could have been, but I tried to be active in your activities in high school and junior high and football and band and stuff. At a time like that, I was pretty much focused on the job that I had. I didn't feel like I horrendously negatively impacted you guys, though there may be evidence of that now as you evolve.
See, that's funny because his view and my view are not the same on that. And I know, Drew, you and I have talked about this before, about how my view
we have talked a lot about it,
of how he was with me growing up at everything, baseball games, and I only played baseball for 1 year, and I was standing way out in the outfield and didn't have any fun. But coming to band events and concerts at school and ISMA concerts, I remember him being at everything, and he remembers it a little different. So it's funny, I think we can relate jazz music to that too. You may enjoy one song one way and I enjoy it another way, or I don't enjoy it at all. And we both have our own views on how to listen to it. And he's got the way that he looks at it, and I've got the way that I look at it. What about you, Drew?
Well, that's interesting because we have talked a lot about this over this last year or so. Dad's involvement, Mom's involvement too. They were there.
Yeah.
I think about how we met the Cook family. You think about Scott Courtney, all the names that were familiar with our parents because of the Band Boosters. Now, that was your high school, my middle school year. He may not have made it to wrestling matches that were out of Fort Wayne for me in middle school, but he would have been at football games. He was involved with band. To me, he was everywhere. And as a parent, you've experienced that. What's it like to try to be Keaton's hockey and Delaney's basketball or band? And magically, Mom and Dad were involved in our lives that way. They knew what we were up to. So I agree with you. He sees it different than we did.
That's weird because I'm sorry that you feel that way because, man, I feel like you were at everything. I don't remember a time. Okay, maybe it's because I don't remember, but I don't remember a time feeling like, oh, man, I wish Dad was here. And actually, there's one instance where I feel terrible because you were at ISMA, and that was my senior year, and you said, do you want me to go into the room and listen? And I said, no, you make me nervous. And you sat out in the hall. So
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
I don't remember.
Oh, man, I felt terrible. I'm like, oh, man, he's going to hate me because I asked him to sit outside. He's not here watching me play.
No, I don't remember that.
Wow. No, good.
That's cool. That was
It's interesting, though, the things that we remember as opposed to the things that he remembers or how he perceives that it went for us. Because, yeah.
Back to the jazz thing. One of the things that I've heard you guys talk about in the past is recognizing the different artists as they come up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can identify, oh, I know who that is. And you can name them by name, by the band that they're in. And I think that's a similar kind of process, isn't it?
It is.
You remember certain things that I wouldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you listen to it,
the more familiar it becomes.
The more engaged you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the more you're into it.
Yeah. Because there's going to be artists coming up on our channel that are in my ear quite regularly, and I'm very familiar with them.
Yeah.
It's probably not fair of me to ask if I could. I mean, maybe that's a question we'll have later about some of my chosen jazz artists.
Yeah.
That'll come up later, but
absolutely.
Yeah, that'll come up.
And let's keep those questions moving. I have the next one. I'll ask Matt, and then I'll let you get to the next one.
All right.
Dad, we've been kicking this around. Life has changed. We went from being the toddlers running around the house to now we've got grown adults. Matt's got 2 out of the house or somewhat out. I've got a teenager in high school. we've watched this iteration and generations change. Back then, I would ask the question differently, but today I'm going to ask, when do you feel the happiest?
When did I or when do I?
When do you?
And do you?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you ever feel happy? When?
Yeah, when we all go home.
When the phone stops ringing.
Again, going to more of a counseling therapeutic situation, I feel great joy when I don't always have the right question. I don't always have the right direction. I don't always have the right answers. Okay. And it's a time like that, I'll say, I pray about it. And it's almost like the Holy Spirit speaks into me and gives me a question or a statement to make. And it's like, this person has an aha moment. And that brings a great deal of joy to me, to know that there's something changing here. There's some transformation occurring. That gives me a great deal of joy. Sharing with my grandkids brings, every grandparent would say that.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
But my grandkids are the greatest.
Well, I'm not going to argue with him there.
No, and after you've raised three great sons, it's only obvious that your grandkids are going to be
Yeah.
What, is that what you're saying?
That's
you
heard that, right?
Did I hear that right?
You heard that.
Did I hear
right?
Sure.
After three awesome sons, the only thing that comes is 3, 4 or 5 awesome grandkids.
Yes.
5 awesomest grandkids ever.
Right. So today, who is your favorite jazz artist? You listening to any jazz? You're following the channel because you comment a lot, which I love that you're watching. But are you listening to jazz today? Who's your favorite artist?
Speaking about the channel,
Yeah.
and the unconnoisseur, every chance I get. Today, this morning, I was having coffee with a guy, and I gave him the QR code.
That's awesome.
And the dude downloaded it right there. He's a musician.
Whoa.
He's a musician.
There we go.
He's not a jazz artist. He's from the 70s. He was a part of Adam's Apple.
Yeah.
So he was a hippie.
Oh yeah, hippie. Yeah.
And he plays the mean guitar. And
there we go.
If you the group Petra,
yes,
he is playing now with the remnants of Petra.
Nice.
The dude can play. And so he told me he's gonna at least give you a thumbs up.
All right, that's awesome.
But now I really, really like the Rippingtons, and you introduced me to them a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And of course, Pat Metheny and group, they rock my world.
Did you hear that? Pat Metheny. Yes, sir.
They rock. They rock. They're so good. And I was looking up the Rippingtons today. They've had like 22 different albums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're incredible. And I've wondered about, in every one of their album covers, they have this funky looking cat. And I guess he's the jazzy cat.
The jazzy cat.
And every one of their album covers, he's on there in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So the albums covers themselves are so cool.
Artistic and fun to look
Yes.
at. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers part of the question.
You know what? The Rippingtons is a great group.
Yeah.
Drew, if you were to recommend maybe something similar to the Rippingtons that he might enjoy, what would it be?
You know, I've only listened to about 3 or 4 of their songs after he had mentioned the name, and I've got a picture. I might actually go to something a little more fun and funkadelic from the 70s. That'd be Herbie.
Yeah.
Headhunters or Trust, which we just talked about with Butterfly.
I was kind of thinking a Weather Report. He might
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Jocko.
With Jocko, yeah.
You told me about Herbie because I was listening to Herbie yesterday.
Yeah.
before I took a nap. I had Herbie
That
on.
must have been the new standards you were listening to. Every playing on the piano.
Hey, Herbie's never bad to listen to ever.
Hey,
Never.
so a couple of weeks ago, I told you I wasn't able to go to sleep
Mhm.
at night. So you told me, put some jazz on.
Yeah.
I listened to jazz and I woke up like 5 hours later. Like I slept all night long because I'm listening to jazz. It's so cool.
Leave me
Yeah, that's
alone.
awesome.
I'm listening to jazz.
That's right. Leave me alone. Oh man, that's funny. All right. If you were to preach a sermon today on jazz, can you think of an artist that may interest you in preaching on?
Yes.
Ooh.
I forget his name. I forget his name. Doggone it. I was going to try to remember
As you
his name.
as you think about that, you touched on this earlier. In your earlier life, you had been involved with the church and preaching. How long were you a
Yes.
preacher?
Well, 2 years at the one church where you and your brother were born. Then I was a year in a church in Fort Wayne, if I could say Fort Wayne. And then the church that I was at originally for 2 years, they asked me to come back and serve just for 6 months. It was 3.5 years later that we left that church.
Mhm.
And so what would that be? Almost 7 years
Almost 7 years.
that I was a preacher, that I served in a church.
Well, and then you would guest preach at churches, and
Yeah.
right. And you still fill in quite a bit today for
Yeah.
well, not preaching, but for
teaching and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the artist that you said, the guy with the hat, Chuck,
No,
not Chuck.
the vocalist,
Oh, Gregory Porter.
Gregory.
Oh boy,
Gregory Porter.
you'd preach
Yeah,
a sermon on Gregory Porter.
I would.
Yeah.
I would, especially his song "Brown Grass."
Brown grass on the other side, nothing but brown grass. Now I'm open wide to the truth I left behind. Her love so hard to find. Now I find myself falling down on brown grass.
Yeah.
Now I find
Brown Grass is
myself
a
rolling
kick,
round
man.
on
It is good. The message there is so cool.
Yeah.
And I would even use him, perhaps if I was counseling a couple and they were struggling with their relationship,
Yeah.
I would have them listen to Brown Grass.
Okay. Wow. Wow. That answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use that.
Gregory Porter.
Yeah. And I've listened to several of his other,
Mhm.
obviously,
Yeah.
his other pieces, but that one stuck out to me. And there was another one that I really liked. I can't recall.
That's okay.
now,
That's all right. Yeah, we don't want to put you on the spot. No, wow. I think Drew and I are both surprised about your answer.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
The reason you're surprised because that I was quick on it, or that Gregory Porter wouldn't fit?
I didn't think that you listened to Gregory Porter, honestly.
You told me to.
Right? That was
Do you do
highly-
everything I tell you to do?
No.
Well, you know what though? Right above here is a time to drop in. We recommended 10 albums to him when Mom was gone. So one of those, I think both of us agreed on Gregory Porter.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
And
Yeah.
that answered one of the other questions. You counsel a lot of people. Do you think you could ever recommend jazz as couples therapy? And you just touched on that. You
Yeah.
really did. Yes, there is
Yeah.
a way to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So
And I would even recommend a variety, not necessarily anybody specific,
Mhm.
but if a couple were struggling with communication, I would challenge them to put on some jazz. Again, not anybody in particular, not specific, but to sit with it for a couple of a couple of pieces,
Sure.
and then have a dialogue about it, so they could learn to communicate.
Yeah.
What's the message? What's the rhythm? What's the beat?
Or even as basic as, what did you hear?
Yes.
Even as basic as that, just to start the dialogue.
You could be a counselor too.
No,
Well,
no,
so
thanks.
I have a question. I kind of want to go back to this and ask this. When you're doing couples therapy, what is it that you're listening for when they begin to talk?
No, it's a good question because one of the things I listen for is what really is the problem. What really brought you here? And they'll say it's communication. They'll say finances. One person has one opinion about finances. The other person has an opinion about finances. And I want to spend more here. I want to save more here. Well, she wants to, and working it out. So I challenge the couples. What is the problem? Let's identify the real problem. Is it insecurity? Where's the insecurity coming from? Let's define what really is at the root of your issue. And let's talk about that. Let's get away from the superficial kind of, let's get away from the surface stuff, get down to the real meat of it. And oftentimes it becomes the insecurity of the person. Mm-hmm. I'm not satisfied with myself. I'm struggling with an issue in myself. I go back often to one of the couples. I had never met them before. They came to the office. I wasn't at the church at the time. They came to the office and they were having struggles. He was unfaithful. And they talked for 45 minutes, maybe a half hour. And I looked at him, I said, so who are you really angry with? And it was like I turned on a spigot for him and he immediately began to cry. Mm-hmm. And he was angry at his father because his father had done something that he didn't want his father to do. And so we talked another hour and a half. I was with that couple for like 3 hours. I hardly ever meet with anybody that long, but it just opened up just by asking some simple questions and listening. And then we got deep. We got deep into it. So where'd I get that from? What was the question?
Well,
getting away from
what are you listening for when you begin to talk?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that what I heard there, as we related to jazz, listening for the tension and find the release.
Tell me a little bit about syncopation, because I think that's some of what if I understand what I understand limited about syncopation is trying to get the couple, again, below the surface, syncopating. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
On the issue.
Correct.
And it's a jazz kind of concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And syncopation means that you're all on the same beat.
Yeah.
Working together for one general goal is either to make it to the end of the chart or to make it to the end of the counseling session. So you're syncopated, staying in time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen that occur many times where we become we the couple and myself become syncopated, and it's not just couples, but it's the individual as well.
Yeah,
because we address the specific issue in a syncopatic. Is that the right way to say it?
Syncopated, yeah.
Syncopated,
yeah.
Process.
So let me tell a story real quick. When I was at Elmhurst, the jazz festival in Elmhurst, and I was watching the collegiate bands play. There was one small collegiate band that was playing, and they played a chart. And the adjudicators that were there, we've talked about this before, but the adjudicators got up to give them some criticism, and one of the adjudicators said, "So, what chart are you playing?" And the piano player said, "Well, I'm playing the chart from my phone." "What chart are you playing?" he asked the bass player. "Well, I'm playing the chart that was printed out from my teacher." And the trumpet player said, "Well, I found the chart in the library." They weren't using the same chart. They weren't even using the same sheet of music. And the adjudicator looked at them and said, "Don't you think it'd be great if you were all on the same sheet of music?"
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And relating that back to the couples therapy is if they're not on the same sheet of music, if they're not
Right.
if they're not syncopated in the same step, there's going to be confusion and chaos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, after this interview, I have found so much information to write down. I'm just about at 2 pages of thoughts from just what Dad had brought to the table. This really is helping me think about the way in which I listen and the way I go about paying attention to the musicians, not just about the music, maybe about their lifestyle. Much like Matt and I found out early, the way our week is shaped does help or hinder the way we listen to jazz music. Being open-minded throughout the week and doing the due diligence to listen to the music, the phrasing, and the artist's story as well has all been exciting.
Check us out at the Unconnoisseur on TikTok. I'm on TikTok at the Unconnoisseur. You can email us at theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. Check out the website at theunconnoisseur.com. Drew's working on shorts, so the shorts are coming out every day on YouTube, or they're going to be coming out.
One year they will.
But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dad.
Thank you.
Thanks for the interview. It was amazing to sit here and
It was fun.
learn from you. Yeah,
It was fun.
yeah. Thank you so
guys.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us tonight.